Hello everyone and welcome back to the finals of the Grand Chess Tour, where the things are just getting better and better. It's the second round of the Classics, Ding Liren versus Maxime Vachier Lagrave, and after yesterday's game where Ding had the black pieces, he had MVL on the ropes, but MVL was able to defend, and well, the creative genius that he is, he was able to wiggle out of Ding's grasp. But now we have a game, again, classical time format, Ding with the white pieces, and we do have a nice photo. Again, courtesy of Leonard Otis, official photographer of the Grand Chess Tour. There you have it. Ding very happy. The young gentleman played d4 on the board, even though Ding did not want to play d4. So Ding retreated the move and then played what Ding wanted to play, which is c4. So we have the English opening on the board. Maxime replies with c5. We have g3, g6, bishop to g2, bishop to g7, so the symmetrical variation, knight c3, knight to c6, knight to f3, and here Maxime breaks symmetry with e5. We have castles by Ding and knight g to e7, where now you can play d6, you can castle, you can play f5 if possible. d3 by Ding, we have d6, and now a3. We have a5, preventing b4 from Ding, and now rook to b1. Preparing to push the b pawn, we have castles by Maxime and now b3. Being very flexible, and now you can develop the bishop to b2. We have rook to b8, preparing b6 or b5, depending on what white plays. Bishop to b2 and h6 now. There are games in the database where e3 and the knight to e1 was played, but knight to d2 is a new move by Ding, and I caught a glimpse of an interview with Ding after the game where he said that knight to d2 was still inside his preparation. So we have bishop to e6 by Maxime, and now knight to d5. Ding says that he was very happy when he found this idea, because he just felt that white was better. We have b5 by Maxime. Now you cannot capture, otherwise you lose a piece here. So e3 and queen to d7. Connecting rooks, also bishop to h3 as an idea in the future. We have rook to e1 by Ding, and now bishop to g4, attacking Ding's queen. Queen to c2, and now comes rook f to c8. So everything is nicely developed, and now knight to e4. Here, Ding says that he was very happy when he saw knight to e4, because after knight captures on d5, c captures on d5, and knight to e7, he saw that, well, now the d5 pawn is under attack, but after knight to d2, his attack is, well, not attack, but his position is very nice, and that the knight is actually excellently placed on d2, because the knight is coming to c4. The point is, and the way Ding explained it, the rook is on b8, it's not on a8, so black doesn't really have a good way of preventing white from pushing a4. And white, by pushing a4, will this way or one way or another eliminate the b5 pawn, and then you free the c4 square for your knight, and that's the point of Ding's idea. So here Maxime went bishop to h3. And now bishop back to h1. Here, Ding was considering e4, but he said that after captures, and f5, that black would have a solid attack. You can continue with f4, and that he didn't enjoy where this was going. So he simply retreated, bishop to h1, and now knight to f5 by Maxime. And here, finally, a4. Now he's winning the c4 square for his knight. With h5 by Maxime, now comes a captures on b5, rook captures on b5, and now you can use the c4 square whenever you want for your knight, but first rook to a1. Now the a5 pawn will be under attack. The bishop can come to c3, you can attack it, you can double rooks on the a file, so it will be very hard to hold on to the a5 pawn. We have h4 by Maxime, and now bishop to c3, first adding another attacker to the a5 pawn. Rook to a8, adding another defender, and now comes rook to a4. Here, just getting the rook into the attack, a very nice rook lift. Now you can just shift it over to the king side, not at the moment, but when it becomes possible. We have queen to d8, just preparing to add another defender to the pawn here, and now comes bishop to f3. Rook 8 to b8. Capturing here doesn't really give you anything. Captures, and it's perfectly fine for white. So here, after bishop to f3, we have rook 8 to b8, now putting pressure on the b pawn if the knight moves. And now comes rook a back to e1. rook e back to a1 with bishop to h6, and here Ding says that he thought about grabbing the a5 pawn, but he just didn't like what bishop captures on e3 gave black. He said that if bishop captures, knight captures on e3, then black would have sufficient compensation for the piece, because after h captures on g3, just a lot of space would open up in front of the white king. So he retreated with rook to e1. But now we have queen to g5, so getting more pieces into the attack, but Ding just kicks it away. Knight to e4, the queen now has to go back, queen to d8, and now rook to a3, just adding another defender to the b3 pawn. Knight to e7, and now knight back to d2. We have knight to f5, and here queen to d1. Bishop back to g7, and now comes g4. Ding said that he didn't find any other way to how to continue the game in a proper way without capturing the a5 pawn. So knight to h6, and now king to h1. After f5 is played, you do want to have your rook ready to be put on the g1 square. We have f5 by black, and now g captures on f5. G captures on f5, and rook to g1. Now the rook is on a very dangerous file, so queen to d7, preparing to bring the other rook into the game, and now queen to e2. Now black plays king to h8, you don't want your bishop to be pinned, and here Ding again said that he was considering grabbing the pawn, but he just felt that this rook lift was a much better idea, and it requires a lot of calculation, because here Maxime played rook captures on b3, saying, okay, if you capture my rook, I'm going to capture your rook, and Ding played rook captures on h4, giving up the c3 bishop for the h3 bishop. So rook captures, we have rook captures, and now Maxime just started pushing his passed pawn. He played a4. But also, if you try something like rook to g8, trying to counter it immediately, then bishop to h5 is very strong, and white will get a very strong position very quickly. Bishop to f8, you hope to trade off the rook, but bishop to g6. And even after queen to g7, you're going to go queen to h5, and black really doesn't have any good moves. It's just a much better position. You can play queen captures on f5 as the knight is pinned. You can get the knight to c4, go after the pawn, harass the d6 pawn. A lot of very strong ideas for white. So instead, Maxime just started pushing his passed pawn. We have e4. We have rook to c2 now, pinning the knight, rook to h5, going after this pawn here, as the knight is pinned, just pawn captures here. So f4, Maxime closes the position, and now queen to d1. Remaneuvering the queen, the rook is under attack, rook b to b2. Now adding another rook to the second rank, attacking the knight here, but now knight to c4, not allowing knight captures here, or something like knight to d2, because this knight is, the b2 knight is hanging. We have a3, offering the exchange, but first Ding goes bishop to g4. A very, very strong move, improving the position of the bishop. Queen to d8, and only now knight captures on b2. So grabbing the exchange, we have rook captures on b2, and now bishop to e6, grabbing the g8 square away from the black king. And here we have a2. So here, of course, rook to b1 is an idea if it becomes possible. But feel free to pause the video here and try to find a winning idea for Ding in this position while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding the best rook lift there is. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's rook captures on g7. Okay, it's a rook lift with a capture, but still. But the point is, if you now play rook to b1, you do trap the queen, and you can bring another queen into the game. White just says, be my guest, because rook g1. And now, if you win the queen or bring another queen into the game, doesn't really matter. It's just a rook captures on h6 mate. So this is Ding's idea. So after rook captures on g7, you don't have the option of doing something like that. Maxime captured the rook, but now queen to g1. This is the move you had to find. King to f8, and here Ding just played rook to f5 check, and it was in this position that Maxime Vachier Lagrave resigned the game. So game 2 goes to Ding. Game 1 almost went to Ding, but game 2 does go to Ding. So now Ding is leading the match by a margin of 6 points, and it's not going to be easy for MVL. Yes, you do get 4 points for a win in the Rapid, but, you know, It's not going to be easy winning a game against Ding in the rapid section. I don't know. I think MVL is the second highest rated rapid player in the world. I think Magnus overtook him now, but it's still going to be hard to win games against Ding. So here he resigned because, well, if you capture it, then it's just mate in 2, queen checks on g8, king e7, and queen to f7 is mate. And if you don't capture it, if you start running away with the king e8 or e7, doesn't really matter. It's pretty much the same thing. Queen g7 check, the king has no squares, you have to block, and queen captures on f7 will again be mate. So yeah, after rook to f5, MVL resigned, and Ding takes the lead, and in the classical time section. Which is really awesome for him, since he is above 2800. So a win against MVL brings him even higher, above 2800, which is, you know, always great. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. We will check out the game between Magnus and Levin, but that was still being played when I started recording this video. So we'll see what's happening there. It's also really a crazy game. So we're definitely going to check it out. I would like to thank Adam Decker, Matt Zimmerman, Jose Feraldo, Ali Jr., Randy Raveling, and Paul Goggin for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Grandchester Finals, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and starting our next big saga fairly soon. And also do be a part of the subscribers video 2020. You will find all the important information in the description below, the first thing you will see. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your Saturday.